that will wrap it up for a very interesting deep dive. Thank you guys for going on that journey with us. But this week's deep dive really does transition well into our top Zen about fiction. It really got us thinking about some of the amazing sci-fi universes that have been created out over the years and how they kind of have really shown us our a future and help make a future for us in a lot of different ways. I believe everyone on this show has been affected by stories or characters among some of the amazing sci-fi shows, movies, or games. So this week we wanted to shout out our top 10 sci-fi universes. And this week is different than last week because, well, there were some places we'd like to visit. Not all of these are the perfect gateway for a vacation, right? These are awesome sci-fi universes, but maybe not places we'd want to visit unless you're Cape, because Cape likes going to like Aperture Labs in Gotham for some fucking reason or whatever. But that was his choice. Nonetheless, I will be kicking it off with this week's number 10. Number 10 is the Doctor Whoverse. The Whoniverse is the expanded universe from the television, novels, and comics, making it a huge sandbox for fans to enjoy. While the main television show has changed over time with different actors and writers, many of the key pieces have stayed the same, including the TARDIS, the Daleks, the Time Lords, and of course, the Doctor. Much of Doctor Who's enduring popularity comes from staying true to what has gone before. While new actors do take on the title of the role, the Doctor reincarnates, and so that's kind of already built into the storyline, and the history and mythology of the show has never actually been rebooted. The franchise hasn't moved into as many new territories as others, but has produced some fine novels and comic books, and of course, an epic TV series. This universe is also expanded into other spin-offs like Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood being an amazing one, showcasing a broad, shared universe. Its mind-bending nature, where almost anything is possible, is a must for a universe we wish existed for one, but it's just a cool universe in general. I mean, the variety of different aliens that we have throughout there, and the fact that it's not just aliens and sci-fi and futuristic sci-fi, it's time travel. It's going back in time, and Vincent Van Gogh is a big character in Doctor Who.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, well, at least in one season. But yeah, they do go back and they interact with a lot of hugely historical figures. And what would it be like if Sherlock Holmes had to hunt a vampire? Find out on Doctor Who, because that's the
Yeah.
kind of hodgepodge of different fiction that they have.
Yeah.
And that's one things that I really love about Doctor Who. That's why, to me, it comes in at number 10 in this universe. You guys am I the only Whovian here? I think that was the case. Kev, are you familiar with Doctor Who? Braun?
I watched Torchwood.
Oh, you watched Torchwood. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Doctor Who. I've seen a couple episodes, but I've never um, but I do like the idea of I think it's clever that they never have to do a reboot. It's just
Yeah.
every new season's technically a reboot if you think about it,
Right.
kind of. But always like things that are like shows that have to do with like time travel and historical fiction, and you definitely see like Doctor Who's universe on other science fiction shows, i.e., Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I like the Who universe. The Who universe.
Doctor Who walks so that Legends of Tomorrow could run. That's for damn
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That's for damn sure. Braun, how do you feel about Doctor Who making number 10 on the countdown? I know you're a big Torchwood fan.
Yeah, I like it. And I like what you were mentioning about like the spontaneity of the universe, and like any adventure that you can imagine can occur here. And that's what I think a good science fiction universe should have, is that like endless possibility.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And very well said. Um, but we've got uh, 9 more on this countdown. So why don't we get right to it? And number 9 in the countdown is the Halo universe. Why does Halo universe make number 9 on the countdown, Kev?
Yeah, of course, Dot. Based on the best-selling video game of the same name, the universe revolves around the interstellar conflict in the 26th century between humans and an alliance of aliens known as the Covenant. Well, that's just not fair. Anyone who has played this action-packed game will know it has a rich and full story and universe, primarily militaristic in nature. If you existed in this universe, you'd likely be a soldier fighting an endless war. But for some, that might just be the ticket. Halo's also spawned multiple spin-offs, even games and books and shows. One of them being like games that explore the universe more, like Halo Reach and Halo Wars, are fantastic nodes to the franchise itself. So Halo, while Master Chief may be the centerpiece, they do have a fantastic world that I think they've done a pretty good job exploring and showcasing. But I'm pretty sure there's still some more meat left on the bone. What about you guys?
I think that one of the coolest things about the Halo universe is that it presents the opposing alien race as not just the villains out there, but they're more religious than we are. They're
Right.
cult-like.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think that element was very, very unique to sci-fi, and really, and especially when you contrast it with like the flood, right? The flood's
Hmm.
just that kind of primal chaos that I was talking about earlier. It's just a creature that needs to reproduce and is going to figure out whatever way it needs to reproduce.
Yeah.
And then you have the covenant in there, where there was that the political and religious side of the covenant that really brought them in. You had the arbiter coming in Halo 2, and I felt that those really brought a unique element to the sci-fi universe and really
Yeah.
kind of showed, like, what if the aliens that we meet are just as tribal as we are? In fact, what if they're more tribal?
Yeah.
What if they're even crazier? What if there's even in wars in between alien races within the Covenant, like what happened
Yeah.
with the Brutes?
Yeah.
Um, you know, so I think that the politics of the Halo universe make it very interesting. Braun, you got any thoughts on the Halo universe?
I'm not that familiar with Halo, to be honest. I didn't know the extent of its universe because anytime I've really played, it's just been like a battle against friends. So I don't know much about like the story or like what's
Yeah.
happening. Just like people are shooting at me.
Yeah. And Halo does exist like that to a lot of people, just as a
Yeah.
multiplayer franchise where they had a lot of fun flying around in banshees and blowing up warthogs and all that good stuff.
Hijacking ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. But speaking of hijacking spacecraft, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy coming in at number 8 on the countdown. Bronwyn, tell us why Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is number 8 on our countdown.
God, that transition was
I know,
so
right? Right?
smooth. I'm like, wow.
Sorry. Okay.
So, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a British cult sci-fi classic and continues to thrill new generations of fans, 40 years after it first appeared on British radio. The guide originally aired as a radio series in 1978 on BBC Radio 4 and went on to spawn a series of novels, TV shows, comic books, video games, and even a feature-length film. This tongue-in-cheek, irreverent sci-fi spoof mixed the themes of travel writing and space exploration to create a devastatingly sharp satire. The story follows the characters of Arthur Dent, a British everyman who is lost in space after his home planet Earth is destroyed to make way for a hyperspace bypass. I love this series. I listened to the radio show and I just think that the way that it like pulls on the society that we know to make these like really funny like jokes, but in like a broader sense. Even just how the
Yeah.
story starts with um like the main character's like home is about to be destroyed to make way for like a highway bypass. It's like going through his neighborhood and like he's trying to like protest this by like strapping himself to the machinery and little does he know that the same thing is about to happen to his planet. So like the way that they are able to like find these real life situations of like, oh, like we got to make a road to go through this place, so we got to get rid of this house. And then on the larger scale, it's like, oh, well, in space, this planet's in the way. We want to make this like bypass here, so we have to like destroy this planet because it's in our way. So I love just like how it kind of makes fun of our worlds by using
Yeah.
this like greater sense of like science fiction.
Yeah, because when you're watching, when I was watching the movie, I remember, like, as a kid, like, I kind of had this gut feeling, like, you just blew up Earth for a highway, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's us, that we die there. That's when we go, and this is the movie starting out, and I had this like
Yeah.
kind of gut feeling, like it was like season 1 of Game of Thrones, right, where they killed off the main character right before the season. I know everyone forgot about Game of Thrones because of the last season, but remember what? Let's go back 5 years before when Game of Thrones was a relevant thing in pop culture. And remember how season 1 was a big deal, because they killed off their main character right off the get go, and I feel like that was the feeling that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy gave. But it sets up a universe where you have a main character that's just flying from situation to situation to situation, and understanding more about the universe itself. My favorite quote of there is, "What is the meaning of the universe?" When they're asking the great knowledge, "What is the meaning of the universe?" And he says 42,
42.
and everyone's like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? And someone looked up what in binary code, 42 is the digit, is the number given to like the semicolon, right? And the semicolon in like code is used as a variable entry, as in it can be anything you want it to be. And so that answer, in a sense, was saying, what is life? And this is a lot of what you were talking about earlier. What is life? Brahman's like, whether it is or isn't, I'm vibing. Like
Right, yeah.
that's how I'm at right now. And I think that's kind of the answer that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says. Anything you want it to be. If it's a simulation and it's a fun simulation, fucking enjoy it. And I think that approach to that kind of tongue-in-cheek approach, but also highly intellectual approach to sci-fi, definitely earns it a spot on this countdown.
Yeah.
Kev, you have any thoughts on Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yeah, no, I'm always a fan of irreverent, sort of existential science fiction. And I think this one's like really good. Like it's really kind of cheeky in the sense, like Brown was saying, that it's like, yeah, our planet wasn't significant enough to like be preserved for a biomass way, right? So now, like basically, the whole story is essentially like trying to reconcile your own world literally just being gone, and then figuring out what reality is to you. And not only you having your world stripped away, you're realizing that the world is a lot bigger than you imagined in the first place.
Right.
And so I think, which is weird because in that sense it does make you feel small and kind of insignificant, but really that significance, I think, harkening back to the number 42, is only up to your judgment, right? So
yeah. Whew, this is a high level episode, guys. I like this. All right. Okay, moving right along. Speaking of highbrow, we're bringing it back down to lowbrow. Number 7 in there is the Rick and Morty universe. Originally, this series began off as a short film parody based on Back to the Future. The original was called The Real Animated Adventures of Doc and Marty. The film was created by Roiland and shown at a short film festival that was co-founded by Harmon. Adult Swim was looking for new ideas for television shows and approached Harmon, who recommended that he and Roland work together to create a series from this short film. The first episode was aired on December 2nd, 2013, and has since become one of the most populated animated series in television. So what makes Rick and Morty one of the best sci-fi universes? Unique characters that viewers can relate to. Sometimes the thing is that you shouldn't empathize too much with Rick, because Rick is one of those characters that like the Joker, trying to imitate them means you miss the fucking point of them. But the creatives have created characters like Beth, like Jerry. I mean, everyone's felt like a Jerry at some point in their life. I feel like, at least I've felt like a Jerry at some point in my life when things just not working out. Not that you should curl up in a ball like Jerry would, but sometimes that feels like the most relevant option. Anyways, these are the ways that Rick and Morty has created these realistic characters out of very fictitious, ridiculous universes. It has real dilemmas. The show is much more than the misadventures of Rick and Morty, as the characters include their other family members. The family faces dilemmas that have real consequences and add extra depths to each episode. Plus, it's fun. The fun element is something that makes this animated series stand out from other television shows of its genre. While many sci-fi science fiction programs are serious, Rick and Morty is fun and entertaining. This comedy factor is what makes Rick and Morty appeal to a wide audience beyond those who are just fans of sci-fi. Each episode is about a new and exciting adventure, and it's in these storylines that keep the viewers coming back for more each week. As previously mentioned, the creators face fewer restrictions than those who are working in non-animated sci-fi series, so the adventures are often outrageous and take place throughout the multiverse. I think one of the biggest things, though, for me that I like about Rick and Morty is it is one, if not the only. I think Hitchhiker's Guide also does this, right? Hitchhiker's Guide and Rick and Morty both are sci-fi universes that are not human-centric, and what I mean by that is that humans are the center of that sci-fi universe. If you look at Star Trek, Star Wars, a lot of the other ones that we're probably going to talk about on this countdown, maybe there you see a lot of humans, right? And you see humans are a very important part of the galaxy. They're standing amongst aliens and stuff like that. They're very central. People know about humans. In Rick and Morty, the only human that's really important is Rick and the Citadel of Ricks throughout the multiverse. Like, that's really the only one. Outside of that, humans don't mean shit. And they're kind of like, not even like of a galactic intelligence enough to be a part of the big galactic conversation. Same thing with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Obviously, they plow through that planet just to make way for a highway. But I think that Rick and Morty does a great job of creating a universe where humans aren't the center of it, and humans aren't really important. No one's really important. I mean, that's the whole point. I have a quote on my wall: nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. We're all going to die. Come watch TV. And that has actually, as nihilistic as that statement is, it's gotten me through a lot of hard times. Yeah. So that's why Rick and Morty universe is so high on this list. I know you guys have got a lot to say about Rick and Morty. Brahman, what are your thoughts about Rick and Morty making it this high on the countdown? Think it should be higher?
Oh no, I think that this is a great place for it. I mean, actually, no, it could be higher or lower on the countdown, perhaps. But I think this is a great take on the sci-fi worlds and like having like that word worlds. It isn't just one plane of reality. Like, you have all these different like parallel universes happening, and they like interact with their own like parallels. And I think that's like a really cool place to go. Even even like, I don't know, there's one episode when like Morty wanted like a redo button kind of thing, and like he went through that whole loop, and I just like loved at the end, he's like, no, like you weren't redoing anything, you were just like changing like your place in like reality. And I thought that was like
and all those things still happened.
All those things still happen, and it's like so I think that's one of my favorite things about the show is it's like the multi-dimensionality of it.
Yeah, for real. Kev, what about you? Thoughts on Rick and Morty making number 7 in the countdown?
I think it belongs here for sure. I kind of going back, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just like something about irreverent existential science fiction, right? Like, I think it's like it checks two boxes where it's like reality's silly or it's serious. It's up to you. And I think
the Vat of Acid getting nominated for an Emmy, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Gonzo gone live in chat. Look, Morty, I turned myself into a countdown. I'm Countdown Rick.
It's actually a great impression.
Yeah, thank you. It is. It's definitely one that's really expanded the sci-fi universe. It's gotten. It's allowed the sci-fi universe to be even stranger than it was. That's for sure. But number 6 on the countdown has made things even stranger for all the other sci-fi in genre completely. It's even in the name. Number 6, Stranger Things. Kev, why does Stranger Things make the countdown?
Yeah, cue that 80s synthwave music, Cape. No, I've always been a sucker for films made and set in the 80s. Growing up, I rooted for Daniel and the Karate Kid. Sweep the leg. Wished I had missed school with Ferris and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and rewound the ending scene of Dirty Dancing more times than I can count because no one puts baby in a corner. Therefore, it did not come as a surprise when I instantly fell in love with the Netflix original series Stranger Things, which takes place in 1983, 1984, and 85, respectively. And not sure when season 4 is going to take place. Hopefully, sometime soon. Uh, a notable show from its release on July 15, 2016, Stranger Things permanently changed popular culture, with its focal points being the significance of value of resilience. The television program is an alteration to society that no one knew we needed until now. Stranger Things accurately depicts social cliques, expresses the benefits and struggles of all types of relationships, and restores the nostalgia you can only feel while watching an 80s film. It leaves you wanting to watch each episode again and again. Stranger Things is about more than fighting monsters, overcoming rocket science, and solving a mystery. It is about saving the only thing that really matters in this world, as well as family and friendship. Love that the characters show for one another, as well as the affection the person watching the program feels as he or she observes each actor perform, is what makes Stranger Things so enjoyable. If you try Stranger Things, I hope you find the love, strength, and inspiration that each character is meant to make you feel, whether they're battling the Demogorgon or just enjoying a summer riding bikes with the boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, if it's no secret, I think Stranger Things has had a huge influence on me. More so the music. I think that's really, what's
Yeah.
funny? When this show first came out, I had heard so many things about it. I kept seeing like videos and friends talking about it. I was like, man, this show is amazing. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but it's awesome. And then I watched it and I had that same feeling. I was like, damn, I don't know what's happening, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
I had
And I
a
think a
similar
lot of
experience.
yeah,
I had a
yeah,
similar experience last night because I haven't really seen a lot of the show, but I
yeah.
did the Stranger Things drive-through experience
Mhm.
they have in LA right now, and
Yeah.
it was like you're driving through different like scenes almost of this show, and they're like actors like coming up to your like car windows, interacting with you. There's crazy lights. You like go through this like rift thing, and I didn't really know the show. But I feel like I was like in the show last night. So
Oh,
now that
that's cool.
my interest, I had these like crazy monster things like jumping out at me. It was wild.
Demogorgons.
Demogorgons, yeah, they like scratched my car.
Oh no. Well,
Demogorgon scratch your car.
uh,
This is what I'm talking about, guys. Bronwyn's life is a fucking Mad Lib.
we're gonna have that game on the nerd soon. No. But
Fill,
yeah, I think, and I
fill in the correct answer for Bronwyn's
yeah.
add like interjectives of like random celebrity.
Winner
and,
for the person. We'll give out a prize for the person who gets it accurate. Like who
right.
guesses.
Or at least close, right?
Yeah. But no, I think like that. I think it's the atmosphere that they set up from the like just the scenes, the 80s nostalgia, and even like which is weird. 80s wasn't necessarily a great time, but it was a charming time, for lack of better words. But I think also like the music was one thing that lured me too. Like there's something about like this sort of Blade Runner synthwave music that I find kind of ethereal and like in a way like hauntingly beautiful.
Yeah.
And they obviously heavily use that as it's going with it. I actually saw the music composers live with my girlfriend at the Kennedy Center. They performed basically the entire soundtrack live. It was pretty freaking sweet. There's a whole light show and everything. So yeah, that's why we had to get Stranger Things up here. What about you, Dad? Do you think 6 is a proper place for this?
I think so. Especially with what we have preceding it. That's for sure. I think that Stranger Things, it was definitely it hit at the height of the 80s nostalgia wave that was coming through TV and films for the most part, and I think we're still riding a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I think we're still trying to get a little bit of that same effect with the 90s. I'll be glad when that becomes like when that trend
Oh,
peaks,
we're heading there, my friend. We're heading there. We
Hopefully
might be
so.
there, honestly.
Well, Captain Marvel didn't do too good at the box office, so we'll see.
Yeah,
No one,
too soon.
yeah.
Too
So
soon.
I don't know. But I love Stranger Things. I think it's been a great series. I think they've really made some really big breakout stars. And they've kind of I don't know. They really brought new breath into the 80s nostalgia. And honestly, I think that you can say that it set some trends even in clothing and everything, just bringing the 80s back, you know. The way it really helped fuel that little 80s revival that we've been having going on. And I think that shows you when a show can have a power to kind of influence things like that are way outside of its you know, outside of just what the show is. You know, that you that shows the popularity, that shows the power of it, that shows the reality behind the fiction, if you will. But I will say that Stranger Things, or that number 5 walked so that Stranger Things could run, and number 5 is The Twilight Zone. Bronwyn, tell us why The Twilight Zone makes number 5 on the countdown.
All right, Zod. Well, The Twilight Zone didn't invent sci-fi. It certainly introduced many of its most common tropes and inspired many shows and movies that came after. First airing in 1959, The Twilight Zone was Rod Serling's attempt to create a show that didn't just tell sci-fi stories, but commented on the issues of the day. He had previously worked on a political show for network television, but was unable to comment on real issues due to censorship by the network and sponsors, afraid of being politically biased. Serling sold the script for an episode called The Time Element, which was produced as an episode of the anthology television series Westinghouse Dissolute Playhouse. This episode was critically praised and led to The Twilight Zone being greenlit. While it served as a pilot, it was not actually an episode of the show. However, it did introduce the show's opening and closing narration, as well as the twist ending that would become synonymous with the show. While each episode of the show was standalone, several familiar trends began to appear. Many episodes were a subtle commentary on political issue such as race, class, and communism. Some were allegorical and others downright blatant in their approach. While several revival series, a feature film, games, novels, and comic books, The Twilight Zone has earned its place as one of the most important sci-fi franchises of all time. It often cited as an inspiration for many popular shows such as The X-Files and Fringe. Have you seen any of the Twilight?
Yeah, so I frequently, to this day, if I have nothing else that I want to watch, I will put on old episodes of The Twilight Zone. And it's the only black and white show that I go back and find episodes of and frequently watch, because it did inspire so much of sci-fi. It showed that sci-fi can be more than people flying around on a spaceship, you know? Kev, what are your thoughts on Twilight Zone?
Yeah, I remember my first introduction to Twilight Zone. I actually came from school. I had a teacher in middle school that made us like she loved Twilight Zones, and whenever she wanted to make an English literary point, she would use like it as a Twilight Zone episode and make us watch it as a reference. Really freaked me out because the first one I watched was that pig episode one.
Yeah.
That's the one that's really ingrained in my memory. But yeah, and I like that Jordan Peele rebooted it. I think that was like the perfect person to do it too.
Yeah, no, I think Jordan Peele, especially right after like Get Out and all of his you know, big kind of breakout movies, I think was the perfect person to take on that role. I watched several, I think all of season 1, and wow, just fantastic. He absolutely blew it out of the water. It's a show that you can, the concept of it still can exist to this day, and I think should. I think it's a show that, especially with how influential it was in culture and influential in the way that we were talking about in our deep dive, of really bringing to light situations about our own reality through crazy sci-fi. I think that it's a necessary show to have in the pantheon of content that the world creates. We need to make sure we're always producing a Twilight Zone. I'm just saying. That's what I think, personally.
I agree.
But while Twilight is for a lot of sci-fi, one would argue that 4 might be the greatest sci-fi series of all time. I mean, many people would. I would be one of those people that would be saying that because number 4 in the countdown is the Star Wars universe. And as I said before, Star Wars would be number one if it was me making this countdown, but we got other opinions in Geek Life, not just mine, all right? In 1977, Star Wars changed modern cinema forever. Like Jaws 2 years before it, it was a massive summer blockbuster that broke all the records at the box office. Praised for its special effects and quality of storytelling, Star Wars became a sensation overnight. The Empire Strikes Back was released in 1980 and took the story into a much darker dimension, with revelations regarding the parentage of protagonist Luke Skywalker and the expansion on the series mythology. While the 1983 Return of the Jedi is considered who wrote this? Return of the Jedi is the strongest among the original three movies. It provided a satisfying ending. I don't know who put that is the weakest of the original three movies. Return of the Jedi is the greatest of the three. But Star Wars didn't end there. Fans clamored for even more adventures set in a galaxy far away. A successful Marvel comic series provided further looks into the rebellion and also allowed Luke and company to explore the never-ending Star Wars universe. Incidentally, it's also saved Marvel from bankruptcy. A series of novels and games that became known as the Expanded Universe. A series of novels and games became known as the Expanded Universe, with novels such as the Thrawn trilogy in particular being considered as good as the movies. Continued interest in the series, as well as successful re-releases with improved effects and deleted scenes reinserted, provided enough to prompt a series of prequels that began in 1999 and 2005. While the prequel trilogy is widely considered far inferior to the originals, they did introduce a new generation to the franchise and critically lauded animated series such as Clone Wars and Rebels, as well as the box office hits Force Awakens, and Star Wars just isn't going anywhere yet. We've got Mandalorian, we've got Bad Batch. It continues to expand. But Star Wars to me is one of the most realistic sci-fi universes. Yes, we have space wizards. If you pretty much take out the space wizards for the most part and replace them with religion, I think that's, to me, it's the most realistic science fiction universe out there. There's a lot of strong politics. The politics are very scattered amongst the different races and different planets. And I think that there's a lot that we can learn from Star Wars. I think the relationship between the Jedi and the Sith is something that needs to really be fully analyzed and understood. I think there's an argument that could be made that the modern day liberal Democrat are actually more in line with Sith than they are Jedi, to much of what liberal Democrats would think. And the Jedi, and this is mostly because the Jedi are not really the heroes. Once you really see the expanded universe and you look at these different codes, I can tell you right now, the Sith code makes to me a lot more fucking sense than the Jedi code, and especially when you see Jedis fucking people up with their mind tricks. Like you see the Jedi mind trick and and some of these other movies are, oh, well, these are not the droids you're looking for, and it's all innocent and shit, right? But you never seen Mace Windu and fucking Yoda and Obi-Wan just mind fucking the shit out of Cad Bane with Jedi force powers, and then all of a sudden the Jedi don't look so fucking nice anymore, right? If you're able to just basically make someone think however the fuck you want them to think to make them politically aligned with you, that's a pretty scary power to wield. But just there's so much to talk about in the Star Wars universe, and I know I've probably given you guys a lot to talk about right there, but what do you guys think about Star Wars coming in at number 4 in the countdown? Sorry, Chad.
You want to go first, Braun? Because I got a lot to unpack.
I think it's like, of course, it's on this list, and I think that it kind of like parallels a lot of the storytelling since like ancient times, almost like a lot of like the things that like come up in this are similar stories that we've seen before, but like putting them under this like lens of science fiction, which I think that's why we relate to it, because it is kind of that like the journeys that we were like familiar with,
yeah,
and the characters that maybe we can like relate to. I know like they're not entirely too complex always, but because there's a lot of like good versus bad, at least in like the movies I've seen. Maybe it delves a little bit deeper in other like forms of the show, or like the shows or the books, or but yeah, I do think that a lot of times the characters just like are a little bit one-dimensional in this universe, unfortunately. Like maybe there could be, like you said, maybe we can like explore like those like the negatives of the Jedi, or maybe we can explore more like the positives of the Sith. That might interest me a little bit more in this universe. Like I think the universe itself is really interesting, but maybe it's like the story that I'm not like quite, or the characters that I'm not quite in love with.
We'll have to send you some expanded universe stuff or something. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
Kev, go for it.
Return of the Jedi is the strongest out of the three?
Of the original three? Absolutely.
Yeah. Really?
Yes. Return of the Jedi, the third one in the original series. Absolutely the strongest of the three.
I think it's the weakest, but I don't think it's a bad movie. And I think that was prefaced wrong. Like I think it's top 5 out of all of the movies, but I don't think it's I don't think it's the best. Like it's Empire, man. Like it's always Empire.
What about Empire? What you got? You got the Battle of Hoth, and you got Cloud City.
You have the Battle of Hoth. You have one of the most iconic voice lines of all time. One of the most iconic plot twists of all time. And it's like it brought from it was night and day to what was at first seemed like a wholesome space epic tale with a nice friendly bear companion to like this dark brooding story.
Did you get Boba Fett being chucked into a Sarlacc pit and Jabba the Hutt being strangled to death?
That was even worse because fucking Boba Fett had 5 minutes of screen time to get thrown into a pit, which he apparently didn't die in.
No, he didn't. He just got a dad bod from. He was chilling down there. There was an Arby's or something down in that bottom Sarlacc pit. That's for sure.
Yeah, like it's gotta be. I love Return of the Jedi, but it's Empire for me. But to your point, as far as like, so when I hear stuff about like the Empire did nothing wrong, I'm like, okay, we got to slow down here. Okay, look, we can acknowledge that
the Empire and the Sith are different things, and that's why I was saying earlier that the Sith are modern day liberal Democrats, because the Empire is just a giant unifying corporation. That's their big fucking rainbow flag that they're trying to be like, oh, we're all united underneath this. The Empire is saving everybody, blah, 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 blah. But it's just a big giant conglomerate mega corporation whose real interest is making as much money as it can, but it aligns itself with the Sith because it believes that it has the ability to do that and be as successful because of the Sith. And all that they hold, and the fucking Palpatine and all this shit. It's intricate, man. You know.
But I don't know, because even if you go like include the Kotar, like you can say that like the Sith have like they're not afraid to bend the bounds of nature and explore the Force to its fullest. But at the same time, they end up starting a lot of fucking oppressive empires. Like every time they start running roughshod, it never ends well. But I think that's the lesson, right? Like there's not good guys or bad guys. It needs balance, and that's where the Jedi missed the point until, you know, and honestly, the fucking the sequels too, where they had this huge opportunity to do something that no one has even thought about touching, where they could have just obliterated both sides in general and merged them together, and then at the end of the day said, nah, light versus dark, we're going to stay going that way, you know, like the world's black and white. And I think that's what, like, it had so much potential, and you saw that it was at that crossroads in The Last Jedi, right, where like even Luke was having his sort of come to Qui-Gon Jinn moment, where he's like, you know, I'm gonna burn all the books and you know, fuck the Jedi way, it's all wrong. And
there are gray Jedi. Ashoka is a gray Jedi, and supposedly Qui-Gon Jinn is a gray Jedi, which believe in like a balance of power between the Force.
Allegedly, though. But even
allegedly, but here's the problem with gray Jedi. Gray Jedi are like, oh well, you know, you just gotta have a little bit of balance here and a little bit of balance here, and they're fucking pacifists. That's the you know, not all cops, you know, kind of people. Like that's what that mentality is. And so, like, I thought Gray Jedi were fucking cool, but it's really just a fucking very passive stance on what's going on in the fucking universe.
That's fair. No, I see your point there, but I think that
You're still not over that.
I'm not. They blow up planets, Dodd. Like, did you? Oh, y'all don't want to pay taxes on slaves? Fine. Boom. Yeah. Like, that was
Empire.
Like, it's hard to get over. It's hard to move past that. But no, I think to your point about, I think we both agree that the sequels kind of had a missed opportunity. Like, it started out strong with A New Hope 2. It, granted, that's what it was, but it was still great, right? Like, I love that movie, even though it was essentially just a shined up version of the first one.
I don't know if they have their Ewan McGregor, which kind of like redeems the prequel series a little bit. Like, everything in the prequel series sucked, but you had Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, so that was pretty good, right? Yeah. But I don't even know if the sequel series has that,
Oh, they don't. They just it started off pretty strong, and you're like, oh man, Disney didn't really fuck this up at all. And then the Last Skywalker comes out, you're like, holy hell, what are we doing here? And even
Space Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Space Mary Poppins. Anyway, I think getting back to our top Zen here, I think Star Wars is appropriately
right.
It is.
It's number 4 in the countdown, but it's a very controversial number 4. And again, I will say,
I honestly think it should be higher than what it is. But we can get.
We do have some really great ones underneath it.
Yeah.
So that's our controversial pick as Star Wars at number 4. But if you had it on mine, Star Wars would be number 1 in the countdown. But putting that on the countdown would definitely have a massive effect on what we think about when it comes to regard to this countdown. That's why number 3 in this countdown is Mass Effect. Because Tato's here.
If Mass Effect, if Star Wars crawled so Mass Effect could fly. Look, okay. Mass Effect is near and dear to my heart. It would be an understatement. The video game universe is full of great spaceships, high-tech weaponry, and bizarre and interesting aliens. Believe it or not, the universe is not far from our own, located in the Milky Way galaxy. When humanity landed on Mars and discovered and abandoned alien technologies, they were able to create utilize the Mass Effect technology to manipulate space and time to discover non-human entities. From Asari to Turians, there are plenty of awesome alien races to meet and also go to war with, if that's what you choose. One of the main staples of the Mass Effect universe and the games themselves is the consequence and importance of choice. Your choice matters. And every choice matters up until the third game, but that's here nor there. And part of that, why that matters, is because they were really kind of the first game to introduce or really capitalize on cross game saves across multiple games, meaning that your character from the first Mass Effect goes all the way into the third game. That's a span of 5 years in three games. That's incredible. Every choice you've made, every consequence is a ripple effect, or has a ripple effect. And I think it was that kind of gameplay that drew me to that. Right? Not only were they great at telling a story and having so much amazing character development, not just with the main character, but your crewmates, your side characters. You wanted to explore every inch of this world because there was so much meat on the bone and so much to offer, and so much that you literally you explored this world, not just physically in your Mako, but even from just a social being standpoint. You explored and had conversations and deep and high level thinkings with multiple people from different backgrounds and race, right? And that was one cool thing that Mass Effect kind of sneakily wove in. Well, maybe not sneakily. They were pretty upfront about it. It's like social commentary on acceptance, collaboration, and camaraderie amongst different races, i.e. cultures, to accomplish a common goal, right? Like, you had the final mission. You have to figure out a way to unite the entire galaxy, and which is an astounding task, because there's so much baggage and animosity between races of intelligent beings standing back centuries from genocides basically making an entire species go extinct or on the brink of extinction through making their entire race sterile. There's some pretty deep commentary here that Mass Effect isn't afraid to get into, even just different varying identities. And even your character's identity, right? Like it was like FemShep is and regular ship are iconic. And I think I still think Mass Effect in itself is somewhat underrated in the sense that it's well, to its own demise. I think the third game didn't really help elevate its platform any, but I think it gives the I like it at number 3 personally. Does it deserve to be above Star Wars? Unbiased, I'm gonna say no. But here's why it is, Dodd. It's real science fiction, unlike Star Wars, which is basically just space Game of Thrones.
What is this attack on Star Wars?
Yes.
Well, like
Game of Thrones is like a fantasy Star Wars.
No. I'm saying Star Wars is fantasy, right? Like
so
Mass Effect.
Game of Thrones is a fantasy version of Star Wars. That's what Braun's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. You know, hey, Star Wars has been able to survive after their finales bombed.
Oh, you're right. You are. Oh, hey, it's coming back.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's I like I said, I like it here. I'm fine with it here. I'm happy here. But if I had to be completely unbiased, I would say it probably should be number 4. I think Star Wars still. I mean, it's fucking Star Wars, man. Like I love Mass Effect to death. I love Mass Effect more than Star Wars. I'll go out and say that. But if I'm being completely unbiased, like just nostalgia and pop and impact on pop culture, like you can mention Star Wars. People who've never seen it know what Star Wars is. There's a lot of people don't like Mass Effect. It's like that's
true. And
unfortunately, because Mass Effect's fucking fantastic. But that's neither here nor there.
Are you going to be checking out the remastered version, Brahman?
Oh, I'm playing. Oh, sorry. Two-step.
I actually almost got it the other day. I haven't played any of it, so I'd be interested. And I had no idea that you can carry your game through, like your character through all 3 games. It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend checking it out.
I think the biggest thing about the Mass Effect universe that I think makes it such a unique sci-fi environment is the fact that it is a sci-fi environment that you have your own personal touch in. You have your own Shepard, whether FemShep or regular Shep, who's interacted in a number of different ways and has had consequences for the actions that have gone through there. And so it's a very personalized science fiction universe. Not to mention that it does have, just as much of the politics as a franchise like Star Wars does, and things like that. But speaking of at least divisive or at least hot topics when it comes to countdown picks, the next pick on the countdown is one that literally only got 1 season, and I think you know what it is we're talking about now. Bronwyn, tell them who's number 2 on the countdown.
We're talking about Space Cowboys, y'all. Number 2 on our countdown is Firefly. Firefly has one of the most loyal fan bases in modern fandom. So-called browncoats, named after the rebels seen in flashbacks, consider the franchise to be one of the best shows of all time, despite being canceled by Fox before the first season had even finished production. The fandom was so strong that the sales of Firefly on DVD prompted a movie, Serenity, which picked up after the series and wrapped up many of the storylines from the show. While not a major hit at the box office, it has also gone on to be a cult success. The show blended elements of space opera as well as classic westerns. While this had been done before several times, the ragtag crew felt organic. The ensemble cast is widely considered to be the reason for the show's popularity. Fox executives didn't get the show, and due to initially poor numbers, cut it quickly. This only emboldened the fans who demanded more. While the movie did give the show a sense of completion, the franchise has continued with a series of comic books. While it's unlikely that we'll ever see Firefly or Serenity back in a live action form, it remains an important part of the genre. It's also synonymous with shows that got canceled too early, so it's unlikely to ever be forgotten.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that there is, when I think of cult classics, especially in TV and film, if I think of TV, it's Firefly. If I think of film, it's Rocky Horror, and I think that it's at that status of like Rocky Horror Picture Show level of cult classic. Just people absolutely love this series, and I get why. It's probably my favorite series as far as the steampunk element of sci-fi goes. I mean, there was really a class division in Firefly that was very apparent, and that's what I loved about it. I loved the fact that it was space cowboys. You know, I'm a sucker for space cowboys. Anybody that's watched this show before knows I am a sucker for space cowboys, especially of the bisexual variety. And like this show really just capitalizes on all that and capitalizes on what makes all that good. The crazy antics that you can have there, the societal commentary that you can have there. Honestly, Firefly does deserve the reputation that it has. Kev, what you know about Firefly?
Yeah, no, I know that I don't understand why it like someone hasn't picked this up. Like there's obviously a demand
Right.
for it. There was a demand for it when it got canceled, and there's still demand
Right.
for it. I think that's the crazy thing. Like how's like Netflix or no one wants to. I mean, maybe no one can touch it for like legal reasons or licensing purposes, but still, like,
Or
Yeah.
should, because it might ruin it.
yeah. Well, yeah, maybe that too. But I think I don't know. It makes me sad that it only got one season, and I mean the fact that it had such a strong fan base after one season is fucking incredible. Like,
Yeah.
the demand it's there, so bring it back.
It's one of those shows that to me, I worry that it maybe it's better that it did get canceled. Maybe it
Yeah.
would have gone off the rails in like season 2 or 3 and just become another generic fucking sci-fi show. And if that's the case, then the kind of prospect of what it could be may be better than what it actually could have lived up to. So maybe the fiction's better than the reality here.
Maybe.
I don't know. But regardless, Firefly has definitely earned earned its spot on the countdown, that's for sure. So we're down to number one.
So
We're
like,
down to our number one sci-fi universe in all of sci-fi universes. And I think that we would be dumb if we didn't mention arguably the greatest sci-fi universe of all time, which is the Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
While debates about Star Trek versus Star Wars will continue indefinitely, Star Trek takes our number one spot. Both of these mega franchises have had highs and lows, but Star Trek has produced more movies and shows, plus a comparable amount of tie-in media, including comic books, games, and video games. Star Trek, unlike Star Wars, is tied to our own history. It's about our hopes and our dreams. It's for a more tolerant world. While there is conflict, the future is envisioned as a nearly utopic humanity. And humanity has learned to move past things that divide us and reached out to the stars with united purpose. We talked earlier about not having money in the Star Trek universe, which again sounds like socialism, but it's very much like a very futuristic idea where all your needs are met, and we don't need to pay for things. We don't need to have money to buy food because we can just get it off of a replicator. And you're kind of just being a dick if you're trying to keep people from using the replicator. You know, they need to eat.
Right, exactly.
The original series was canceled after 3 seasons, but it earned a cult following and did very well in syndication. The box office success of Star Wars led to plans for a movie production, while Star Trek, the motion picture, was deeply flawed in many ways. It did well enough to warrant a sequel. Widely considered to be the best in the series, The Wrath of Khan saw the crew began one of their greatest arcs, which culminated in Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home. Star Trek then returned to the small screen with The Next Generation, critically lauded with a massive hit with fans. The new Enterprise and crew influenced a whole new generation of shows, including Babylon 5 and Stargate. Further spin-offs such as Deep Space Nine and Voyager, as well as the prequel series Enterprise, fleshed out the Star Trek universe. After the franchise fatigue kicked in, Star Trek took a novel approach to reboot, establishing a new timeline in the 2009 Star Trek. With a new show in development, Star Trek continues to boldly go where no one has gone before. And honestly, when you think of a sci-fi parody, what are they parodying? Star Trek.
Star Trek.
All the time. Bronwyn, I know you're a big fan. I've been watching a bunch of the new generation. Bronwyn, I know that you're a big Star Trek fan as well. Why do you think Star Trek deserves the number one spot here?
I think just how huge that's part of it, is like how huge this universe is, and how like there's like no stone really unturned, in the sense that like I feel like because there's been so many episodes, so many series, like they've been able to, like the characters of the show, they're like exploring new possibilities, they're exploring new worlds, and like that's what every episode has given us, is like that sense of exploration, because it's not just like a sci-fi in the sense of like you're living within this sci-fi universe. It's we're gonna like find out more about our sci-fi universe, so they're learning new things as we're learning new things, and you're taken along on that journey, is what I think makes so significant.
Yeah, for sure. Kev, you think it's fair that Star Trek gets the number one spot?
I think so. It's the OG. Yeah. I mean, well, maybe it's not the OG, but it's the OG that matters today in modern day science fiction. I think everything like on this list was influenced one way or another by Star Trek, as far as like space operas are concerned, right? And and the thing about Star Trek too is it's so ubiquitous that not only just like there's fans all over the place. Like we talk about the divide between the original, the sequels, and the prequels for Star Wars. Shit, man, Star Trek goes all over the place. I, for one, liked the new movies. You know, I know to some that may be blasphemous to say, but I thoroughly enjoyed. Maybe the third one not so much, but the first two, I'd love those movies. I'd watch them again, even though we were really using that damn lens flare technique. Anyway, that's.
I do use that a lot.
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to the new show, the new series. I was introduced to Star Trek by my grandfather. Like he was a huge Trekkie. So and even like influence. I remember I watched something, I think it was on the Science Channel or Discovery Channel or something, about like just influences on science fiction that covered Star Trek. Like cell phones came from the influence of Star Trek. Right? Like remember like in the original series, like they had the little flip. It was like the little communicators and things like that. So there's so many things that I think.
Whenever I'd have health issues, my dad would always say, "Damn it, Jim, I'm not a doctor." And I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So I think there's so much influence that Star Trek has had that's even unseen or really underappreciated, I think. So I think it deserves to be number one for sure.
I think so too. I think it's very foundational to what sci-fi is. I mean, we talked a lot this episode about how sci-fi shaped like a moral generation for us. One of the first on-screen kiss between members of two different races was on Star Trek. And it carved the way for social progress like that. I mean, what if we lived in a day and age where there really was no difference between who was working the front of a spaceship, ethnically, racially, the society that they want to progress, and it showed our own goals, what we wanted to be, right? And kind of collectively kind of held hands and said, this is what we want to be, right? We want to be a society that progresses towards this, right? And I think that it started to show also that I guess if you're not for that, then you're outdated. That you are living in the past, that you are clinging to something that is not a part of the future that we want to see. And so I have to applaud Star Trek for kind of that foundational element of sci-fi that we see. I think Star Trek was the first to do that. And to me, that's why Star Trek is the GOAT when it comes to sci-fi universes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We got tons of honorable mentions, though. We got to talk about the Cowboy Bebop universe, the Dune universe, StarCraft, Half-Life, Westworld, Stargate, The Matrix, Gundam, the Stephen King universe, Battlestar Galactica, and there's some non-traditional ones in there too that could be thought of. The Marvel universe is a sci-fi universe. Pokemon is a sci-fi universe. BioShock is a sci-fi universe. Overwatch is a sci-fi universe.
Yeah.
Even Jurassic Park is a sci-fi universe.
Yeah.
Kate just said Black Mirror in the chat. That's a good.
Black Mirror is a great one as well.
Modern day Twilight Zone.
Yeah. So tons and tons of great stuff. Anything on the honorable mentions before we sign off, guys?
No, I think that covers it for me.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess that will wrap it up for this episode of Geek Life. I hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation. It's been quite the long one this time, but it was a great topic on a lot of different stuff. Remember, if you want more of Geek Life, you can find links to all of our socials down in our bio below. Also, join the Discord, join the Nerd Herd. There should be a big old icon there with a big Oregon Trail logo with an NH on the side. Join that. That's where you can see all the fun that we're having here in our chat room. Thank you guys so much for hanging out in chat. We had a lot of people savage losing their mind over Firefly making the countdown there. Littlest Nelly throwing some G's in chat for us. We had a couple of new follows over the past couple of days. Cosplay Fitness TV followed us about a week ago. We got Natty Kate, who also gave us one, and we had Savage subscribe in at 4 months at tier 1. Thank you guys so much for the subscription. I appreciate that. Big shout out to our moderator, Littlest Nelly, and our video producer, Cape, back in the producer seat, doing a great job. He did, the Doodler fucking kills it as always. Thank you, of course, to all the new followers and everyone. And we will be back at the same time, same place next week, but we'll probably be a rerun because we're going now every other week for a new episode. So come back here next week. We'll either have a review of one of the last episodes that we did. It won't be live. Or just a rerun of this episode. Maybe you're watching us again on that date. Hi, future me. If that's the case. But we're just kind of slowing things down just a little bit as things open back up because hey, we've been locked up in our house for almost a year and we want to get out and smell the fucking roses. So we're giving ourselves time to do that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Yeah.